Alright, hello guys. Today we are going to be remaking my Geno plush. I'm remaking him because I'm not that happy with my old Geno plush. As you can see here, my new Geno, he's all dapper and cool. My old one's all ugly. And so I'm remaking him because I'm just not as happy. So the materials you're going to be using are, it's like an orange-yellow fabric, white, orange, dark blue, and tan thread. I ran out of tan thread. You're going to need needles, scissors, and pins if you want to. Dark blue fabric, dark brown fabric. You're also going to need tan fabric, orange fabric, and yellow fabric. And you can also use the template we have here. And there's a link in the description below if you want to download it and just print it out, and you can use it. And so that's all the materials. Okay, but before we start, I do want to give a huge thanks to Blob, as he helped me digitalize my pattern so you guys will be able to print it out, and that just really helped me, and I hope to see you guys create this plush. And I will leave a link to the pattern in the description and a link to his channel if you guys want to check it out. You're just going to grab the arm piece, you're going to put it on top of a tan fabric and fold that tan fabric over, and then you just cut off the hand piece, and then you just cut it around, and then you can also sew it around and leave the wrist open, and it should look like that. And now you'll go to your arm piece and you'll just cut around it and do the shape of the arm, and then you're going to sew the short sides, and that way you will have the arm. And now you see you have both pieces here, and in order to make the arm together, you're going to have to put the hand piece inside the arm, but make sure that the hand piece is flipped before you put in the arm. That way both pieces are placed correctly. And now you just sew the perimeter like that, and your arm is finished. And now for your leg, you'll do the exact same thing for the leg piece as you did for the arm. You'll just cut around it, and then you can just sew the sides, well, the short sides. It should look like this. And now, after, you will grab your foot piece and make sure to place the foot piece on top of the dark brown folded fabric, and make sure to fold it from behind in order for the shoe to have that nice unsewn look on the back. And you just trace it around with the right crayon or anything. You don't even have to trace it. I did because it makes it easier to sew. But you just trace it around and you sew along the curved side and the straight point from the top of the curve. You leave the bottom of the shoe and then the top of the shoe open. That way you can place the leg in it. We'll do the exact same thing you did with the arm, but with the leg and the foot. And then you just want to get the sole piece and just make sure that the sole fits your shoes. Sometimes sewing can go a little different for everybody, and so it's nice to know that your pieces fit well together. So you could just remake a sole piece for yourself, but it's all for the pattern, so just do what you want. Now you just sew the sole back to the leg after you flip it in, and now you go back to the body. So the body, you just cut it out twice. You have to cut out 2 pieces. And then for each body piece, you can sew in the darts from the middle, and that way you can get that nice rounded look from them. And then you just do that twice, and you sew on top of the body pieces to make sure that the fabric stays together. And you just sew it on top, and then that way you can have it prepared for the next. The next step is you're gonna grab the leg, and you see I sewed a little dot there, so you can see how much the distance is gonna be. But you just sew the leg from that, you just sew it with that space in between, so that way that space is going to be inside the body and your legs won't be too long. And now you just sew both legs into the body, and it may seem difficult at first, but if you struggle a bit, you should get it in there. And now here's the body with the legs sewn in, and what I did was I sewed the body around the legs, but for the last part I had to sew the body closed using a ladder stitch. It's not very difficult, it's mostly like time consuming and hard to get around. And here's the body stuffed with the legs. Looks pretty alright so far. We just have to get the rest of the body put together, and your Geno is starting to look like Geno. Before we move on to the rest of the body, we'll go to the head, and now you just get your 2 pieces for the head. The front piece, which is going to be 2 oval kind of shapes put together, and you're going to sew the darts from the top, and then the 2 bottom darts, you'll sew them together to have the curved and make sure that the head looks alright. And so you should just do that on top of your tan fabric, and it should look alright. And now you should cut 1 piece off the single oval shape, and your head should be stuffed and looking like this. Now I did make a mistake by sewing the darts, the middle darts, with white thread. I forgot to sew them with black or dark brown thread to make the darts part of the Geno design. You could do that too, or you can just go over the thread and use a marker or something, or write over it, or just draw over it, or sew over it the dark lines of Geno's eyes to give him that wooden built together look. And as you can see in my old Geno, the mouth, which is also sewed in, you're gonna also want to do that with the head. You're just gonna sew in between of the darts with like a square shape, but don't do the bottom line, just keep it with the two lines on the side and the line on the top. Try to put it centered. Don't put it too high because it's gonna look a little weird. And then it should look something like this. As you can see here, I sewed the darts. I re-sewed the darts because I kind of wanted them to have the thread looking like the same. So here it is, and now it's stuffed and it's ready to be attached to the head. And so you're just gonna do a ladder stitch around the body and the head. And you can see some videos on YouTube of how to do some of these stitches. I don't really want to explain them all. So you're just gonna do that and your body should be attached with the head. Here's like a clip of them pinned to the body. I just want you guys to know how the placement will look, and make sure that the head is facing the correct way with the feet. I did accidentally sew it kind of facing the opposite direction. So you don't want like a zombie Frankenstein Geno plush, although it would have looked pretty cool. And so here's the Geno doll, just attached regularly. And now we're gonna move on to the arms to attach the Geno. So you're gonna want to get the arms on top folded inwards, and then you're just gonna want to ladder stitch the top, and then you're just gonna do it like that. So you'll fold it inwards, and then you'll just, here's the arm, you just want to sew it back to the body. So you can ladder stitch it, like just imagine there's a circle in the armpit area of the arm, and then you just ladder stitch around it, and it should look like that. And I did want the Geno doll to have like those shoulders be separated from the body, so that's why I made it like that. And then that will be the Geno sewn on, and then that should be the body so far. And now for the eyepieces, you just cut out the two eyepieces. You can sew or glue, or just find a way to attach the red part of the eye to the white, and then you attach that to the face. You can also make the nose. I chose not to do the nose as I didn't really feel like it was necessary. Though Geno does have an iconic like triangle of a nose, right? And now you're just gonna cut off the hair pieces, which is I guess ribbon for the doll in game, but I just chose to do it out of fleece fabric. And so you just make the long strips, you sew it onto his forehead area, a little bit above the eyes, not too high though, since you do want like a good length of it coming out of the hat. Now after it's looking like this, you should keep your Geno doll or plush like that. You could play with it a little bit because it's just funny to see his hair wave in the air, but you just keep it like this until after you put it the hat, since after you put the hat is when we're gonna fix the hair. Now for the ears, you're just gonna get the ear pieces, cut out 2 fabric ear pieces around the tan fabric for both ears, so we'll have 4 in total. You just sew around the curved side with a blanket stitch, and then you'll flip it inside out and do a ladder stitch on the straight part, and then you can ladder stitch it to the head. It would be simple, just ladder stitch it. And also if you don't want the ears to point out too much, you can sew like just one single stitch on the back of the ear, just to keep it like stuck down, just in case you don't want that monkey look to it. And so now the hats, you'll just cut out 2 of the top of the front hat pieces on the dark blue fabric, and then 1 on the back. Right here is the back of the hat piece is not the exact one from the original or from the template, because I tried making the hat and it looked kind of weird, so I just redid the template. I fixed it for you guys and I re-fixed it for mine, so it should look all good. Now after you do the hat, you're gonna want to get the hat symbol, which is the yellow kind of key thing. You're just gonna put it on between in the seam. You're just gonna sew it to it, and make sure you do it when it's off of the head. Don't want to sew it accidentally to the head and the hat at the same time. So you just do it. You can curve it a little into the hat, like underneath it. You can, but you could do whichever way. And so after that, you see the hat's on the head. The hat's looking pretty good, so you're just gonna do that. You could sew it around, like just blanket stitch it around like I did, and you can leave like the open for the ears. And so now for the hair, you're just gonna roll it up, kind of like a fruit roll up, and you're just gonna sew it to it, and then the hair should look nice and curly. Now for the cape, you're just gonna cut out the bottom cape area, and you're gonna cut it out in the dark blue fabric and the yellow fabric, and then you're just gonna sew around it, leaving the curved unstitched. Like for the first time in this whole tutorial, you're not gonna stitch up the curved side first. You're just gonna go around it and make sure you're doing the whole spiky area first. You keep going around it and make sure that you don't like stitch the curve, because you wanna leave that part open. And you just flip it inside out to see how's it going. It looks pretty nice so far. Use it on the Geno just to get the size comparison right. And look, it's looking pretty good, so we're gonna move on to the collar. The collar is just the same, like with the spiky area of the cape. You're just gonna put it on top of a yellow fabric and a blue fabric and then cut it out. And you're just gonna stitch it. And so after that, I turned it inside out to show you guys how it's gonna look, and to make sure it's looking good. And right here, if you wanna if you guys wanna like get a shortcut or something, you guys can flip it in. You just make sure that it's the right side out and just blanket stitch the inside. So make sure that both yellow sides are showing, and then you just blanket stitch it. What I chose to do is flip them inside out and then put them inside each other, like kind of like what we did with the arm and leg, with the hand and foot. And then you just stitch around it, leave a section open. That way you can flip it right side out, and make sure that you just don't, if you're gonna do this the way, you just don't stitch all around it, since you don't want the bad side of the cape looking. Unless you do, once again, like I said, it's up to you how you guys want to do it. I'm just here to guide you along the way. Right, and here's how it looks flipped inside out. And you see, if you did it this way, you'll have a section open. You just ladder stitch that closed, and your cape should be looking good. Now here's it is the cape on Geno. It's a little opened, but it's not too bad. So now we're gonna move on to the rope area that's connecting the cape. And so you're just gonna want to get it like the yellowish orange fabric, and you're gonna want to curve it around. Just make like a really long oval, or like a rectangle shape with the sides kind of curved up. And then you just want to sew it around. Make sure that one side is open. If you're gonna do what I did, which is like put like these little hooks in one side and then put a hook on the other side, that way you can open and close the cape as you want. You don't have to, you can just automatically sew it to Geno by just sewing the sides. And here's how I made it. And then you just sew it to Geno cape, and it should be looking good. And now how I did it was ladder stitch it on one side. You just ladder stitch it. And on the other side, I ladder stitch the other hook thing, so that way it could be hooked together. And after that, your Geno doll is finished. And here it is. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I do apologize if this tutorial was a little, it felt like off, I guess. This is my first tutorial, so I was just trying to do you guys some good. I am kind of nervous since I want to show you guys that I really enjoyed making this plush, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Thank you. Have a good